Welcome everybody. We are back with our interview series. This time we have a new guest with us, who is Ilya. Ilya is the CEO of Adatapro in Bulgaria. Thank you for joining us, Ilya, today, and thank you for sharing with the extended FIVEP family. As I mentioned, Ilya is the CEO of the group, and he will be introducing Adatapro for us. So, Ilya, the stage is yours.
First of all, thank you for the invitation. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Adata Pro is now 20 years on the market, and it's a company that is an integrated business information provider. I like to call it that way. So we have a number of different services that are around media monitoring, risk and compliance, data in general, automation, and so on. We have an R&D company that is a separate company. We also have a media company, like a publisher that is publishing global news on different industries. And we also have a separate company that is a media monitoring and reputation monitoring provider for Southeastern Europe. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know what I like the most out of your video is that you are described as a serial entrepreneur. So I found that a very a very nice term to describe a person. So just out of interest, I mean, we have been all going through a very interesting couple of months, being most of us locked down at home. So I was just wondering how is the situation now in Bulgaria?
It's more or less, you know, to be honest, it was the first month that was tough in terms of measures when it comes to the lockdown. And after that, in Bulgaria, it was quite loose when it comes to actually implying those measures. So to a big extent, people could go out and so on. So now it's like we are very much back to normal. They're actually opening the nightclubs today.
Wow.
So, and we have a football championships that is with people like with fans on the stadium.
Oh, okay.
So they obviously decided that we're out of that. Whether we are out or not, it's another question. But now basically the whole society is more or less back to normal, except for some of the hotels.
Okay, wow. So no face masks, nothing?
There are face masks in clothes in like shops and so on, but I would not say that this is 100%. Again, people are not complying with that 100%. So I guess that it's a lot more like, it's like it's out now, and we'll see what happens next. So this might be an issue, but
I guess.
Yeah, so, but we'll see.
Well, so let's hope that it remains stable for all of our sakes. So when it comes to let's go to the business side of the pandemic, if we can call it like that. When it comes to work organization, I mean, most of us, we were working from home, like fully. And I guess that was a similar situation for you guys. And what changes or adjustments are you planning on applying in terms of the work organization? Are you going to have your teams fully in home office? Are you going to be using, I don't know, a co-working space, or are you going to go back to the office in full? Do you have any plans in terms of your work organization?
So basically, it's like we have been 100% working from home since day one. Actually, even before they did the lockdown here, we were working from home like several days before that. And when it comes to organization, we had before this whole thing, we had something like 20-25% of the people working from home anyway. Now we are actually not back to the office yet. We have decided that we'll wait a bit more. So we haven't said that the all the offices that we have are now open for business. We'll wait another 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll start slowly getting back to the offices. But what we see is that a lot of the people now, after this was like uh, a test for how this whole system can work. And of course, there are some bumps on the road that are connected with logistics in the families where people are working. As we all know, I mean, it's like kids, dogs, and so on. But in general, a lot of the people would prefer to continue working from home, at least on for some, for several days per week or something like that. It's just when you get the people, all the opportunities that are connected with actually not losing time to get their kids to the kindergarten, then to get to work and so on and so forth. In terms of logistics, obviously that takes a lot of time. So now we are looking to balance that out between actually giving opportunities to people to work from home. It's also connected with a lot of challenges around security and so on. I mean, it's like you really have to be careful on the tech side, what you get access to, how is this whole thing set up, and so on. But also at the same time, making sure that you keep these people as part of the organization, because this is the other risk that we are looking at when it comes to a lot of people working from home. How do you actually keep these people as part of the team? How you develop them? How you keep them connected, and so on. So it's also about the company culture and how you continue to build that up. So it's like we are looking to find the right balance in that because there are risks. I mean, it's like it's not an easy exercise from what I see.
Absolutely, absolutely. But at least from our end, we are listening to many companies saying, okay, maybe we reduce the amount of offices that we have, and instead
Mm,
of having everyone at the same time in the office, we just make I don't know, days in
mm,
which teams go there, and these other people
mm.
stay at home, or maybe you just say a 2-3 type of
Yeah.
split, so 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. I don't know, so it's actually quite interesting to see what alternatives are being taken, especially because more and more people is adjusted to working from home or remote working, and we all know now that it
Mm.
works, and it doesn't really matter in what part of the planet you are, it works. So
Yes.
that's actually quite interesting, because I think the planet, like the working environments of most offices, they didn't have such a stress test
Mm.
ever before, and this is why, of course, it's quite interesting to learn what are the ideas from the different members of
Mm.
our organizations. So I absolutely understand your point.
Yeah, just a note here because I'm also the chairman of an association in Bulgaria that is gathering tech and business services companies. So these are something like 70,000 people.
Hmm.
And I'm negotiating with the real estate companies in Bulgaria that are renting office spaces and so on. And so what we are seeing when it comes to a broader, number of people and businesses, we have something like the expectations are that there'll be something like 30 to 40% decrease of the space needed uh,
Yeah.
of the companies that are currently renting office spaces. And now we are trying to find a balance where we are actually together with the real estate companies are finding ways to add additional services to the office spaces, like kindergartens, for example,
Hmm.
just to bridge the gap between losing all that time and still going to the office, but
Yeah.
having different types of services that are associated with going to the office. So it will be an interesting transformation globally, and end of the day, it might be good for all companies in the ecosystem.
Absolutely, absolutely. I see that. I see that 100%. And you mentioned this also before while we were talking. I mean, there is a big issue with let's say data protection and
Mm,
IT environments and so on and so forth. So how about internal communication and external communication as well, for sure, with employees and work teams, with regards of your structures? How do you intend, do you have any plan in terms of how you want to adapt that so you can
mm,
have this security for yourself, let's say
mm,
for yourself, for your organization, of course?
mm. When it comes to security, it's like we are very careful with that because, as I mentioned, we're also doing like risk and compliance services and stuff like that. So when it comes to also personal data that is about the clients and so on, it has to be very carefully monitored. So on the IT infrastructure and how these people are using their computers at home and so on, we have a very strict procedure of how this is done. But on the, from another perspective, on the communication side, because this is
Mm.
like a continuation of what we discussed last about people working from home and still being part of a community. It's like we're doing more and more on the internal communications when it comes to surveys. We have started organizing classes for kids, for example.
Okay.
So as we all know, it was one of the issues during that time that you have to actually not only work but also take care of the kids. And we started doing that classes for kids online. We started doing like pop quizzes for the employees. We started doing different types of stay together initiatives. We started. We had. We're trying to also check on the health status of the people because this
Hmm.
was also quite crucial when you're isolated for that long, not only on the but also on the psychological health status
Absolutely.
because you're in different, like some of the people are with a family, but other people might be like by themselves and so on and so forth. So we are trying to be more and more transparent and continue that as initiatives, regardless of what percent of the people are staying home or going back to the office. And what we are seeing is that all these are like really good for the for the whole environment in which people are communicating with themselves, between themselves. So it's like we have this ask me almost anything um, video chat.
Okay.
So yeah,
Ask me
uh,
almost everything. Okay, that's
almost
good.
yes, yeah. So and things of that sort, and it's like it will be more and more in the future about that, about how you communicate with your employees and what is the context that they get, because if less of them are going to the office, it would be harder for the organizations to actually get hold of these people and make sure that they're part of the culture of the company. So companies will be looking at doing more of that just to be able to keep their people and develop them.
And what about external communication, let's say towards customers and suppliers? I think
Mhm.
not much changed, excepting for the fact that you were talking to your customers and suppliers while at home, and like there's maybe not much of a difference there. But how about event management or event attendance? I mean, we all know that normally we use, let's say we used to, it's funny to talk as a past tense, but like we used to go to several meetings per year,
Yeah.
going to different places or going to congresses. I mean, how about that type of communication? What are your thoughts on that?
It's like it's almost like the part with working from home. It's like it's obviously working okay, but the question is for how long, because people are ultimately like social animals and they need contact. Not all people, obviously, but still. I miss having direct contact with people, and I guess we'll be back to that. We as a company are trying to get on more like obviously online conference events and so on and so forth. But it's a totally different experience. It's useful, but still you don't have this added value from what you can, like discuss in person with the people that you're interested in doing business with, or you have to, exchange some ideas and so on and so forth. So obviously this part of the economy will suffer, but I guess that people will be needing to get back to that. I mean, it's like, and I'm seeing that not only from our perspective, but from the client's perspective. Clients are also eager to actually, in some cases, get back to meeting people and meeting their providers and so on. So this is something similar to what we were discussing with people and working from home. So how do you keep that going forward, like only online communication, but still, keep your clients and show them the value that you have and so on and so forth. So it's
No, that's clear. I think we actually have a unique opportunity right now as business people, as an industry, to rethink and reshape structures that, let's say, ancient structures, because it doesn't really mean that let's say in a post-lockdown world, or whatever you want to call this, no, it doesn't really mean that you need to keep 100% one or the other. You can even say, okay, we have a mix of, I don't know, a conference where you have one day where you all meet and then the others are digital, or maybe you can think of different ways of gathering people. I mean, there are so many options right now, and specifically because of the technological side of the working from home, let's say, industry, that, due to the pandemic, they had the greatest chance ever to develop new solutions and create new ideas. So I think we are gonna we can try to think a little bit out of the box and think how to, I mean, what options are out there for us to have a smarter contact towards clients, for example. And as the CEO of Adatapro, have you been working on repositioning your organization for, let's say, this post lockdown period? Have you been working on that during the lockdown?
Yeah, we actually used the lockdown to work on some branding stuff and some repositioning when it comes to the communication channels and so on, because similar to what was happening in 2008, first line of businesses that was hit then after the crisis was like media and so on, and it's similar now. But now we have obviously, I mean, but we have social media as now as a big thing that is getting even bigger when you have all that communication around COVID, and now all the communication around Black Lives Matter, for example, which are huge topics like globally, and then a lot of the conversation is out of the traditional media and into the social media, of course, again. Like the other two topics, it's like a balance, but we are looking more and more into positioning in different channels through social media, and be like conservative when it comes to traditional media, for example, more conservative. We are looking at repositioning and doing a lot of events like this one, like online conferences, and getting more people outside the industry, like industry specialists and so on. I mean, we are actually trying not to be communicating as one-way communication, but finding different ways in which this is a conversation. So this is something that, I mean, if it's one sentence, it's like during this period we are actually restructuring our positioning from in many areas, from like communicating one-side communication to conversation, and finding different channels in which we can do that.
Okay, so basically your positioning is not a change in, let's say, in the type of business or services that you offer, but mostly in the way you communicate.
Yes, to a big extent. And when it comes to repositioning in terms of the services, it's like all this thing has pushed a lot, obviously, a lot more automation. And we as a company have been trying to push in terms of automation and the services that we provide as automation services around processing of information, indexing, whatever, all that. And what we're seeing is that now companies are more like open to actually discuss that, just because, I mean, during the times of crisis, this is more easily accepted. Let's put it that way. And obviously there is a value in that. And this is the other part of the repositioning. I mean, it's like we have great specialists and so on and so forth, but in order to make decisions in this world that is changing really fast, and this is also a change that we'll see from the pandemic, is like you have to move fast, move faster. We have always moved fast, but you have to even move faster. And in order to move faster, you have to make changes that are connected to the way you actually work. And one of the big changes around that is more automation connected with also the amounts of information that you have going up and up and up, and the faster decision-making process that you have to do. So you need to have more information real time and use it as a decision-making tool. And this without automation is a lost cause, I think.
So it would be going from, let's say, a fairly traditional process, of course, a technology aid process, but still, let's say, a more traditional way of processing information and data towards an increase on automatization in processes. That would be the change. But how about your competition? Do you perceive that they also reshape, or do you think that they are doing exactly what they did before the pandemic started?
I guess that everyone is trying to change something and to position themselves in the way that they see fit for the situation. What we're seeing is that honestly, the companies that have been used to traditional processes with no technology and so on, some of these companies are actually, we have some companies that went bankrupt for these 4 months. And so even from that perspective, when it comes to the economy, it's like the good part is that you need to change, or you basically you die out, which is which is not always bad for the economy in general. But what we are seeing is that the companies that are more successful are companies that have integrated people, like specialists in technology. It's like it's hard for tech companies to adapt. They adapt fast, but the value added that should be true people that can give advice and so on. It's like even in situations like that, they need time to adapt to that process, or find their niche. And it's the same with companies that have not adopted technology so much in the past. So these two types of companies are trying to find the middle ground. And if they're not doing it fast enough, some of them are actually out of the
Going to
market.
disappear.
Yeah. And so, and when it comes to media, that is an integrated part of the whole ecosystem and so on. What we're seeing is that, as we all have seen, in our markets, there are some print media that have gone bankrupt in the last several months. They just decided that they'll close it down. And
so did your company's media offering change due to this crisis? I mean, as you mentioned, if traditional print media suffered the most under COVID, did you have to adapt your media offering? for the media
Uh,
intelligence services?
yeah, I mean, it's like honestly, it makes it more easier when it comes to having less print media if you are a digital first company in terms of the services that you provide. But then it's like the change is also connected with the emergence of things like podcasts and so on, which is now
Yeah,
more and more new media formats that are really pushing. So there are more and more clients that are looking into podcasts, and we are also, when it comes to the services that we are providing, we are trying to support that in
yeah.
terms of monitoring and finding.
Yeah, this is a big trend right now. I think everything that has to do with online social media, digital type of media,
Mm,
there is a huge migration, let's say, in terms of information. But there's also a lot of information, and then it's kind it's like the World Health Organization described it as this infodemic situation where there is so much that you don't really know anymore what you have to pay attention to make a decision. So this top like this is quite a challenge, you know.
oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. And when it comes to all that, again, this is a topic that even in FIVEP is discussed a lot and in our sector, but false news like fake news and misinformation and so on. We are seeing now a big growth in that. It was huge, but now it's even bigger than what it was. And we are actually, when it comes to services or industries or new niches that we are looking at, we have several partnerships that are on fake news and so on, which is even on the business side is significant. And from the perspective of automation, it totally makes sense to invest even more in actually finding that. And yeah. And another thing like that is obviously pharma, which is quite straightforward. And we're seeing a big push in terms of clients and services around pharmaceutical companies. And the third one is, it's interesting because it's not so much, it was not pushed from the market, but this is something that we are looking at. It's employer branding as a
mhm,
service in terms of
okay.
actually in this moment and going forward with everything that we discussed, working from home, how you connect to employees and so on. Employer branding can be a huge topic
Yes.
for global companies, and we are actually working on with a focus on creating like specialized products that are around employer branding, monitoring, but also like of course we have done that before, but now I think that there is an opportunity in this direction, and it's a big one with all the consolidation, global consolidation of businesses. It would be an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a huge area. I mean, right now our digital presence is more important than ever before. So you have to do it right. So it's clearly a really interesting topic. Um, and we were talking about the situation with the different media types before, and in the last couple of months the topic of exclusive deals between media monitoring companies and publishers, all together with this topic of the veracity of news and trust in media, these are, as you said, fields of growing interest. From your perspective, what role should the media intelligence industry take in this regard? Like, do you have experiences working with publishers amid, for
Mm,
instance, trust in media or something like that?
mm. So I guess one of the things is that still there are a lot of publishers that don't fully understand the industry, and when it comes to actually working with them, it's a lot also about education and bridging the gap in where the value is and whether these are like additional channels, revenue channels, even additional channels through which media can get to more users and so on and so forth. And what I have seen in the years, because as I mentioned, we also have a publisher, And we used to have, for example, like years ago, we used to have exclusive agreements for global redistribution, which we get out of just because there is a point in which you just cannot extract the value that you're looking for from an exclusive partnership. One, and the other thing is that when we are discussing all the ideas around social media conversation and so on, it's media companies are also looking in that, and trying to get more communication, direct communication with their clients. So it's like I guess it's something like the topic with companies renting office space. I mean, it's like it's an ecosystem, and the way it works is about what is the right balance. And when there is no right balance, it's like the whole ecosystem suffers. And so you have 2 points. One is about communication, and the other is again the value that media monitoring, reputation monitoring companies are adding to the market of to the media market. And what we also mentioned with all that fake news, misinformation, and so on, this is affecting currently for me. This is affecting the reputation of the media sector in general, and we can be as an industry something like policing actually this reputation, and there is a way to do that because otherwise it's like the reputation of media is going generally is going down. The trust of people towards media, as we see, it's like it's not where it's supposed to be, and you need a body that is actually not regulating that from a government perspective, but actually regulating that on a product services perspective.
So
So
how do
this
you
is
propose to do something like that? Do you have some sort of index, or do you have anything in place for that?
I mean, it's like there are a lot of things that can be done in that direction. For example, we have like on top of the obvious publishers where you have a high index of trustworthiness and so on. We're trying for different markets to create an index for trustworthiness of media based on what they're publishing and the analysis that we're doing and so on. But this cannot, obviously, it's not something that one, two, or three companies can do. It's something that the whole industry can do, and this is, this is just this is just an example. But I guess that in that way we can actually add more value in the whole ecosystem, because now on top of that, its barrier to entry to be a publisher is really low. I mean, everybody is, as we all know, everyone can be a publisher. And so it's like, if everyone can be a publisher, how I'm not sure that now the market is actually being able to control that all by itself.
Yeah.
And then there is another industry that can. And so finding something that is working in that direction can be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about a little bit of the way your offering or the service offering changed in your end. I mean, you mentioned this whole brand reputation area, for example. So, was there further changes in your service offering, or maybe in your target groups?
So yeah, so another thing is like when I mentioned like speed. It's now we have two like big case studies that are around how companies react in a time of crisis, like huge crisis. And as we mentioned, one is COVID, the other is like Black Lives Matter. And the brands that have communicated in on one of these two, some have made huge mistakes in the way that they communicate, and making these mistakes were based on not having enough, not having enough information, or misreading the information or something like that. So this is again something that our industries can step up in together with peer consultants and so on. So when it comes to the offerings, it's like on top of what I already mentioned, it's also like looking at trends like in real time and acting on trends before actually the disaster happens. This is not something new, but we are trying to make it as real time as possible. You know,
Yeah.
because you see, I mean, now it's like it's whether it's one advertisement or somebody said something and it's affecting the performance of the whole company or losing 10% of the price on the stock market or whatever. It's like and this can be big. Yeah.
So kind of predictive analysis or something like
Yes.
that.
Yes. More and more around that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know how it is in Bulgaria, but at least from our side of the of the continent, what we can say is that there have been a few emerging sectors. As I mentioned before, for example, just a simple technology sector for working from home is one of those
Yeah.
big winners out of the pandemic. I mean, if you consider the emerging sectors, if any, of course, what requirements do they have?
Mm. So on top of the classic ones that we all know and we are working on all these, so they are more and more like trying to integrate analyzing SEO trends, web searches from customers, like integrated into the information that they get from the monitoring of different types of communications and conversations, engagement tools for engaging online and all that. So it's like now it's a lot of these companies are not just using that as an external service when it comes to monitoring and analysis, but they're trying to, as part of the external service, to get more value out of some consulting and so on. And in some of these cases, these companies are looking to get that outside of the company as well. Of course, they're having it inside as well, but they're just trying to diversify the risk and get a more like clear view of what's happening and how is it happening and how should they react in communicating with their audiences. So it's getting more and more integrated when it comes to the current needs of the clients that we are seeing.
Okay. And if you would, I mean, if you would be able to, do you have any additional recommendation for other FIBEB members that are, of course, going through a similar situation as you are? I mean, what would be your recommendation as your next move that if you are considering on your strategic planning here?
Yeah, a lot of that for me is like it's really simple and straightforward. It's like improve communication. It's like we have to show that media monitoring and all that associated services is just it's not an expense, but it's an effective and valuable way to affect marketing funding right now in the situation because we have obviously. We have a window of opportunity where we can grow the value of the media monitoring sector, and yeah, that's it. And all the other things around automation and showing the value of automation together with human in the loop approach and so on.
Yeah.
But this is I know that a lot of the companies are working on that. Anyway, so it's almost like business as usual, but at a very high speed.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. So, lastly, how do you think FIBEB as an organization can help you to cope better with this situation?
It's like what you're doing in terms of sharing information, supporting each other, and so on is great. What I guess is also important is when it comes to the regulations from the European Union around copyrights and so on. This is something because it will affect the whole industry and the way that we are working going forward. And on the contractual level with media, and also whether we are keeping to the regulations that are in place around copyrights and so on. And in a case like that where it's harder to have communication with these bodies in the European Union that are regulating these things, it might be even more important to have a one voice for the industry communicating on that topic, because it will affect us all.
Well, in that case, Christoph Dickes will be really happy to be our champion. I can tell
Yeah.
you that.
Mm.
And also, I don't know if you're aware, but we are doing different events, digital events
Mm.
as part of FIGAP that might be interesting. I mean, we are doing this Grab a Bite event that basically aims to give a little bit of a more casual feeling,
Yeah.
like a table at the Congress where you just discuss maybe interesting topics with one of course of the members of the board at this point. And for example, one of the topics that is coming is the talking about the local media and the community media, for example.
Mm. Mm.
I think they're pretty interesting discussions being let's say being enabled on those
Mm.
rounds, and I think this is something that we can work with. I do agree that it is important for us as an industry to work together towards regulation,
Mm.
specifically to guarantee the access to media. And this is definitely an area where you are going to be yeah, you're right on the spot. This is an area where we are definitely working on. So um yeah, so I'm actually really thankful for all the input that you were giving us today. It's extremely helpful for everyone at the extended FIMEP family to hear how heads of our industry are planning ahead, and how to reposition at this point. It's a really crucial moment. As you said, if you don't adjust, there
Mm.
is a big risk of disappearing.
Yeah.
So I would like to just thank you for your time today, and I really wish that we get the chance to see each other in person soon, and maybe have a drink or two.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot, and this will be really great if we can do it anytime soon. And meanwhile, stay safe, and hopefully see you soon, right?
Yes, that's what we also hope. Thank you, Ilya. Take care
Thank
and
you.
stay healthy. Bye bye.
Bye.